everybody. My name is Annie McGrath, and I am the president and CEO at the Seattle Southside Chamber. On behalf of our board, our ambassadors, and our staff, it is my absolute honor to welcome you all to our 2023 Airport Luncheon. It is my absolute honor to introduce today's keynote speaker, Seattle-Tacoma International Airport Managing Director, Aviation Division, Lance Little. Lance has a big job, and he is known for his leadership and repeated success in leading major airport capital development programs, negotiating airline and tenant agreements, and managing large, medium, and small airport hubs. We know that he's someone that our members look forward to hearing from all year, and we're so grateful that he has joined us again for our luncheon this year. I'd like to have a warm welcome for Lance Little, please.
So thank you for having me here today. Just a quick overview of what I'm going to be presenting. I'm going to just give you a little bit of update on the airport. Then I'm going to give an update stuff that has happened since we last spoke back in 2022. A lot has happened in 1 year. And then I'll talk about some of the upcoming projects that we have. Everyone can hear me okay? Lots of materials, so I'm going to be speeding through this really fast. So we talk about what we do often, we talk about how we do it, but oftentimes we don't talk about why. And so I want to start with the why. The port has a higher moral purpose. We have a mission, and that mission is based on economic growth and development within the region. And so pretty much everything that you see us do, you'll see that emanating from the mission that we have. So we always try to start the presentation with the why. So one of the goals that we have is to create 100,000 jobs, not just any job, but actually what we call living wages jobs or quality jobs. That's part of our mission, as I said, economic development. Lots of time we hear about what we do, which is we try to move people and cargo through the airport in a safe, secure manner, with the emphasis, of course, on excellent customer service. That's what we do. And then how we do it, we basically provide the facilities, we provide the amenities that our passengers and that our tenants at the airport need. So that's the what, the why, and the how we do it. So just some quick updates. Again, economic impact of the airport on the region, 22.5 billion, and that's through direct, indirect, and induced activities that takes place at the airport. So pretty much if you take the airport out of the region, you're taking out 22.5 billion annually. That's how impactful the airport is. Within this region. Over 87,000 direct jobs and over 400 million in state and local taxes. It's a quick update on where we are right now. As you can see, in 2020, we pretty much had nobody coming through the airport. You might have heard me say it before. In April of 2020, you could roll a bowling ball to the airport. You probably would not hit anyone. But as you can see, we have come right back. Our forecast at the beginning of the year was to get to about 48.9 million. We're now looking at about 51.2 million. So we're actually going to be almost right back to where we were in 2019 by the end of the year. Right? So that's just tremendous growth. Cargo pretty much did not, that was our saving grace. Cargo just continued, it did not dip. In fact, if you look at 2021, we saw a spike in cargo, and that was a lot due to e-commerce. And then we saw a dip. The theory or the thought is a lot of people were home with nothing to do, so they just ordered online. And then in 2022, when people could get back out, they started getting back out and going to brick and mortar. So that's where you see the dip. But as you can see, cargo is still higher than it was back in 2019, which was the peak of our operations here at the airport. One of the challenges that we have at this airport is we're very constrained. It's ironic, the airport is called Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, and it's neither in Seattle or Tacoma. It's in the city of Sea-Tac, and we're very constrained. And as you can see, we have the 6 neighboring cities around the airport. So as we talk about all these projects and all these growth, we also have to be aware of the impact that the airport has on these 6 communities. And I'm going to speak a little bit about some of the things we're doing to try to mitigate the impact on these airports. To kind of put things into perspective, this is Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. This is their terminal layout. They do approximately 100 million passengers, so twice as the number of passengers that we do. But if you overlay our terminal onto theirs, this is what it looks like. So they have like 5 times the amount of space. that we have at our airport. So if you go to like Hartsfield Jackson in the morning, or if you go to DFW and you see the lines are actually longer than our lines for the most part. But it doesn't make the news because they have a lot of space to queue people in their terminal. We don't. So our lines go to the garage because we don't have any space. That's the only space we have to queue people, and we make the news. But it's because we really don't have any space at this airport. We're just so constrained. We're on a 2,500 hectare property here. So that's just put it into perspective. And international service. So we have approximately 25 international airlines serving 29 destinations, and we have 45 international services. Work the math out, you can ask me in Q&A, I'll explain what that means. The bottom line though is we're in a geographically strategic position. We're equidistant between Tokyo and London, and we're the nearest airport to mainland China. So that worked really well for us on getting international flights from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Now once you get here, we can pretty much connect you to anywhere in the US. Well, almost anywhere. Apparently nobody in Seattle is interested in going to North Dakota, South Dakota, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. Nobody's interested in going to those states. Those are the only states that we don't have direct flights to for some reason. So, but the bottom line is once we get you to Seattle, we can connect you to pretty much everywhere in the USA and in Canada as well. And here again is irony. Since the pandemic, we've actually attracted 9 new international services. I'm not sure of any other airport in the US that has happened. 9 new international services since the pandemic. And these are just a few of them here. Okay, so I want to just give a quick update. Since we had the meeting last in 2022, a lot has happened. Before that, I want to just reiterate all the projects that you see us talking about. Remember, I started with the mission that we have 100,000 jobs, creating opportunities, especially for underserved communities within the region. And then we have a vision that we've established, and these are the goals that are associated with this vision. So if you see the projects that I'm talking about down the road, just remember that these are the goals that we're trying to get to what's called a 5-star rated airport. I can explain what that is. 75 MCT minimum connect time, that's the time to get on an international flight, go through customs and immigration, make your connection to your domestic flight. 45 minutes from the clock tower that you see when you're driving in, find a parking space, get through security. 45 minutes. We're not there yet, but that's the long-term goal that we're trying to get to. And you see some of the projects that we're doing to try to get there. And being the top 25 airport service quality world ranking, level of service optimum, I can explain what that is. And we also want to be the greenest and the most accessible airport as well. And you'll see some of the projects that we're undertaking to try to get us there. So since the last time we opened the North Satellite facility, it's beautiful. The international arrival facility, the central terminal is now open. I hope you guys get a chance to dine there. We have Salt is now open on the north end of that facility. It's beautiful. We have the Amex Lounge on the south end upstairs. There's fantastic facilities as well here at the airport. And we continue to try to provide opportunities for small micro business. You'll see Africa's Best and several other micro businesses that we have created kiosks for them to actually operate at the airport. A lot of these small businesses can't afford to bid on RFP. RFP is like very expensive just to put a proposal in. But we have kiosks that we actually invest in these kiosks, and they can just come in and do business and decide if maybe the airport is somewhere I want to operate in. So that's the part of our kiosk program. Again, just to give you an update, since if you compare 2019 to 2023, the number of passengers coming through our international arrival facility, as you can see, exceeds 2023. So we're not only are we back, we are basically above where we were in 2019. You saw one of the goals that we had is to become a 5-star rated airport. If you see, there's no 5-star, well, one 5-star rated airport, sorry, in the USA. But if you look at all the traditional airports, Incheon, etc., we can't build those Taj Mahal type facilities. Will never happen here. We're not going to have the infinity pool on the top of the building. Not going to happen here. We're not going to have the butterfly sanctuary or the forest in the airport. Never going to happen. But we can compete on customer service, right? And that's kind of the area that we're really focusing on, because we don't have to spend millions and billions of dollars in order to have great customer service at our airport. Again, as I said, we want to be the most accessible airport. We are doing things such as sensor rooms. We have interfaith prayer rooms. We have Era, which is a service. If you're visually impaired, you can actually log on to Era. You have somebody who actually becomes your eyes for the airport, and they actually guide you through the airport as you're walking. They're somewhere else remote, but they're seen through your camera or through your app that you have, and they will guide you through the airport. So we have services like that, and we have the sunflower lanyard. If you have any hidden disability, you can ask for a sunflower lanyard. So if we see you with a sunflower lanyard going through the airport, we are aware that there's extra help that you might need because of that hidden disability. These are just a few of the things that we're doing in that space. So since the last time, we have actually won for the second time in a row the best airport in North America. Round of applause. It seems like it's cause for applause. And this is just a fantastic achievement because of all the things that we have to do to actually get here. Vancouver up north have been kicking our butts for the last 10 years or so. So finally, we have won this award. And not only have we won, we've done it 2 years in a row. So that's just great. We're focusing on making the journey through the airport as predictable as possible. The pain points people have coming into the airport is coming in the drives, finding parking, TSA checkpoint lines, and of course concessions. So these are the areas that we're focusing on to try to make it as predictable as possible. And also just providing information. People want to have information available all the time. So we're trying to make sure they have information readily available whenever they want it. So we have the parking reservation system. We now have prepaid parking that's going to be converted to parking reservation. The entire 4th floor is going to be reserved parking. You can reserve your parking before you get to the airport, and you will be guaranteed a parking space. You don't have to worry about searching for parking. Right? We're targeting, I think, about November 1st-ish to have all of that converted. I'm looking at the team when I say ish to nod, but I don't see any nods yet, so I'm going to anyway. And the cool thing about this as well, since the pandemic, people want to have a touch-free experience. With this, you make the reservation online, you come to the parking lot, you scan a QR code, you get in, you scan it, get no interaction with anyone, you don't have to touch anything, so that's pretty cool. Another major project that we got done was the parking guidance system. We had a lot of people who come to the airport, they can't find parking, they're circling around and around. Now, you will actually see exactly how many spaces are available on each floor. Once you get to the floor, you'll see exactly how many spaces are available on that floor. Once you get to a row, you'll see exactly how many spaces are available in that row. And not only that, you'll see the exact spots that are available in green. So it will save a lot of time searching, a lot of anxiety, but also reduce our greenhouse gas impact as well. So this has been a major undertaking here, and I think people love it. I see a thumbs up from Kyle over there. Thank you. And we also have Spot Saver. So now you've parked, you found your parking, you've reserved your space in line as well. You don't have to join the long line. You can actually just go to the line, you have your reservation, and you go to the front of the line. Spot Saver. We were the first airport in the world to do this. First airport in the world. Yeah, you can get a hand. There are many airports that are actually doing this now in the USA, in Asia, and also in Europe as well. But we were the first. It's been a big hit since we spoke the last time. We have reached the 1 million passenger using Spot Saver July, and it just continues to be popular. It just continues to take off. So we're encouraging everyone. You don't have pre-check. If you're not traveling first class, this is it, and it's free. That's the beauty of it. It's free. So, well, we pay for it, but it's free to the passengers. And then mobile ordering, right? You can order on your food before without even having to go to many of these restaurants, and then you can just go and pick up. We used to have a delivery service where you could order in Concourse B and have it delivered at A. That's been paused for a while, and we're looking at potentially restarting that again. Okay. And then this is our app, right? Please, if you just download the app, it has all the information. When you ask me or a lot of some of our pathfinders or volunteers questions, you see them go to an app. The information, you can actually download it and have the information right at your fingertips. You can see lots, we have had lots of download between 2021 and 2022. Okay, some upcoming projects. These are just a few of the projects that's taking place at the airport. At any point in time, we have like 140 Eileen, 140 projects taking place. So what you're seeing here is really just a snapshot of the project. I'm just going to speak about a few of them. So this is our Wyden's arrival. As I said, we're trying to get people 45 minutes from the clock tower through security to your gates, right? But the roadways are really congested right now because we don't have enough lanes. So this is one of the projects we're going to be widening. We're going to be adding 2 lanes, dedicated lane going to the parking garage and one going to the ground transportation center. That will free up the lane for passengers to get to the airport. So this will be a key project. We're scheduling to get this completed before the World Cup in 2026. Right, Eileen? Yes, the nod and say yes. Okay. So pause, everyone. If you forget everything that I said today, this is the one slide you have to remember. Right? So we're going to have that project completed in 2026. This is what we have right now. We have the upper drive, we have the lower drive. Departure drive, arrival drive. Guess what? They go to the same place. You must remember that. They go to the same, use the one that is least congested, right? So this person right here is gonna take a few minutes to get here. If this person came here, seconds. Same place, it's just upstairs, right? We have elevators, escalators, stairway. So again, if you forget everything I say today, what's the one thing you're gonna remember? Upper drive, the lower drive, they go to the same place. Just use the least congested one. And tell everybody the same thing, please. Okay. All right. So as part of our accessibility projects that we're doing, this is the upper drive. You'll see curb cuts every 100 feet along. So we have accessibility for people with mobility challenges. The lower drive is all zero curb, the entire lower drive. This is completed now. A major project that we're undertaking under construction right now is the North Ticketing area with Alaska Airlines, great partnership. That entire area is going to be totally transformed. This is what you're seeing now. You'll see construction walls going up. And what we try to do is just rather than have, wrong slide. Rather than have just the bare white walls, we're trying to actually use the opportunity of these construction walls to tell the story, tell exactly what's happening, right? And also provide opportunities to display, for example, artwork from high school, elementary schools, etc. And we're trying to, because it gets so kind of claustrophobic and congested down there, we're trying to put work up so that it looks like you're actually outside and assimilate windows, etc. So it doesn't use the claustrophobic. Because this is going to be like this for a while before we have this brand new space. This is the rendering of what it's going to look like. And again, this is going to be completed before the World Cup in 2026. Alaska nods, so great partnership with Alaska that we're doing here. And in addition to, let me jump back here. Yeah. In addition to the aesthetics, the first thing you'll notice is that you'll have lots of natural light coming in. It will just be beautiful compared to what we're seeing right now. But more importantly, it will be far more efficient. You'll have self-tag, backdrops. I'm looking at a backdrop, the latest technology. It's just going to be a totally different experience for the folks using flying Alaska Airlines here as well. And we're looking for, this has been a great partnership between Alaska Airlines and the port. It will transform the entire, what we call Zone 6 and 7, which is the north side of the airport. So we're really asking you to pardon the construction work that you're seeing, but this is what you're going to have at the end when this project is done. Just transform the airport and the passenger and customer experience as well. Okay, other thing we're doing is we're actually moving checkpoint 1, which is a pre-check. We're moving it down and we're going to be more than doubling the number of lanes. Again, we have a goal to get people through the security checkpoint within a certain time frame. We can't do it with the number of lanes that we have right now. We have to add lanes. So this is checkpoint 1 expansion, but we're moving it down to the baggage claim level. And restroom, we're going to be renovating all the restrooms in the terminal. So you might go to some of the restrooms that's brand new. There are others that's not so new, but they're all going to be, all the restrooms are going to be renovated. Right, Eileen, I got that right. Thank you. Eileen nodded again. And we opened our first all-gender restroom on Concourse D just recently. You guys can check it out. It's a really nice restroom as well. This is Concourse C. It's Very low ceiling, dark, dingy, wide enough, etc. This project is under construction now. Again, going to be totally transformed. This is what Concourse C is going to look like. And again, before the World Cup, it was a slow nod, but it was a nod right now. Before the World Cup. We're targeting trying to get all these facilities before the World Cup. And again, the amenities that we're going to have, the sensor room, the mother's nursing suites, lounges, airport dining and retail, new restroom, everything is basically going to be here. We're going to have space for the performing arts, and we're going to have a really nice solarium where you can actually view the airfields, and it doesn't matter if you're traveling business class or coach, whatever, everyone has access to this. It's going to be a really nice facility. And Concourse S, this is going to be the biggest, most expensive, most disruptive project in the history of the airport. Concourse S. We're going to be renovating just like we did the North Satellite. It's the oldest facility that we have right now. We're going to take down half of it, renovate it, and take another half down and renovate it. And it's going to be really spectacular when it's done. Very expensive, very complicated project, but it's going to be worth it when it's done. These are some rendering of what it will look like when we're finished. How am I doing on time? Okay. Let's speed up here. Oh, quick one here. I've spoken about the service that we need to provide to get people from point A to B, to get them to meet their flights. One of the most difficult and complicated things to do is to actually get bags moving through the system. We have about 10 miles of baggage system. So I'm gonna spend just a minute and a half just so you can see what actually happens to your bag when you check your bags in.
The journey starts at the ticket counter, heading behind the curtain down to the bag load. This is underneath the terminal, below D concourse. All bags going on a plane must go through TSA security screening. That's here. Kind of spooky. All right, now all clear. Now bags will get sorted to their destination. The one in front of us is from another line. Here, a 12-head laser array will read bag tags at every angle. Bags are scanned in milliseconds by the laser. If a tag can't be scanned, it will be redirected for hand scanning before it continues. Our bag meets a high-speed diverter. It's redirected to a new line. There are more than 10 miles of conveyor belts for outbound bags. 360 feet per minute. One bag will use only some of those miles. The darker green areas are older sections that are being upgraded soon. Our bag is going to the end concourse in a tunnel 12 feet below the aircraft taxi lane. On average, the bag will take 6 to 8 minutes to reach its gate. The tunnel to the end concourse is over 1,500 feet long. Going up means you're almost there. The bag is near its final area to be sorted to its proper airline. Then it's pushed over to piers where it's separated to its aircraft.
Alaska getting some free advertising.
Handlers put your bag toward baggage carts. Then it gets loaded to the belly of the plane. Now, nice and snug, ready to fly.
So that's what happens to your bag. So now you can tell everyone. Now, as we grow, as I mentioned, we have to do it in a sustainable manner. We have six cities surrounding the airport, and of course, other neighboring communities as well that we really have to be aware of. We spoke about the economic part of sustainability, but there's also an environmental and a social component as well. And I got my 5-minute warning. So I'm gonna rush through this section real quick. These are just some of the programs that we're actually doing right now. As part of the environmental program, we have preconditioned air, so the aircraft doesn't have to run their engine while they're at the gates. We have electric charging stations on the airfield, so the airlines can convert their equipment from diesel equipment over to electric. We have agreements with the TNCs, Uber and Lyft. They have 45 MPG equivalents, that's why you see some of the Priuses, and we have incentives for them to convert to electric vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. We could speak about this all day, but I'm gonna rush through because I'm almost out of time. On the social side, we have Port Gen, we have Airport University. We actually provide college courses at the airport for free to employees. Well, it's free. Alaska and other airlines pay for it, but it's free to the student. We have START, which is an advisory group with the 6 surrounding cities, the FAA and the airport, and we look at practical ways to reduce, try to mitigate the impact that the airport have on the neighboring community of the South King County Fund, $10 million. We provide grants for economic development, etc. We have paid internships, over 120 interns, and we have really interesting projects that they work on and they get paid while they're working with us. Apprenticeship quotas for projects over a certain amount, and prior to hire, we hire from underserved communities on certain construction projects as well. And basically, that's it. The updates since 2020, upcoming projects. The airport is basically back to where we were in 2019. International traffic superseded what it was before, even though China has not reopened as yet. So once China is fully reopened, I think we're going to see a huge influx of international flights. And again, if you don't remember anything that I said, this is the one thing you're going to remember, right? And then just a quick update. Next year is going to be our 75th anniversary, so we're going to have a lot of celebrations commemorating us being in operation for 75 years. And I'm available for Q&A. This is our vision video, all the stuff that I've spoken about, what the airport is going to look like and feel like. This is basically what it's going to look and feel like and how it's going to operate. And I'm open to any questions that you may have. I think I'm in the Q&A section. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? We do have a couple minutes for a couple
Yeah.
questions, if anyone has one out there. Oh, Councilmember Kwan, we bring you the mic.
The locals know about the upper and lower drive, whichever one is less congested is the one to take. I'm wondering, can the airport just have an automated system to direct traffic to the less congested area in real time?
Mm-hmm.
Have you explored that?
Oh yeah, we actually do. We have 2 dynamic signs coming in, and it will tell you departures drive is congested, use arrival drive. Nobody pays attention to I don't know. We actually have 2 of them coming in. There's 2 signs, one, and then the other one tells you the same thing, but I'm departing, I'm going to the departures drive. I'm arriving, people just ignore it for some reason. Social media, we go on TV, we do the thing opposite. We've been campaigning for years and years, but for some reason, it's not getting through. That's why I have it in all my presentation, so I'm hoping, people get the word out that just use the one that we congested. You're going basically to the same place.
Yeah, I know they both go to the same place, and they've got shuttle to the airport, but there doesn't seem to be near the amenities at arrival. When you go down below, you don't have the sky caps or the kiosk from each airline to assist with guests that need help if they're checking their luggage or wheelchair, anything like that. Is that going to increase, I'm assuming
No,
soon?
but that's one of the reasons we have the vertical circulation. So we have elevators, we have escalators, we have stairs. So, you can stay in the line for like 10, 15 minutes, or just go to the shorter one and just go upstairs or downstairs. So that's what we're encouraging you to do. Just pick the one that gets you. If you want to get to the terminal, you want to check in, etc. And then you can decide, am I going to go through security or do I go upstairs for whatever service you want? Yeah, so wheelchair, you have to make sure you do your wheelchair reservation prior to coming to the airport. That's the best thing to do.
Great, we have time for one more.
With the growth of the airport, do you see offloading flights to like Payne Field or any other potential putting a new airport out in?
So there was a study that's going on to site a new airport that has been paused we're not leading that effort, but we support that effort, and we're looking forward to the new group that has been formed and what the recommendation will be. We'll definitely need a new airport down the road. This one is going to max out at some point in time, and based on the forecast and the growth that's going to be continue to take place in this region, another airport will be needed. Where it will end up, nobody knows, and my time is up right here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and as I said in your intro, this is something that our members look forward to every year, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule. We saw how much you have going on to join us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker and panel moderator, Matthew Gardner, Chief Economist at Windermere Economics. As Chief Economist for Windermere Real Estate, Matthew Gardner is responsible for analyzing and interpreting economic data and its impact on national and regional real estate markets. We asked Matthew to take a look at the impact of travel on the Seattle Southside hospitality industry, and he was kind enough to drill down the numbers for us and share some insight with us today. So everyone please welcome Matthew Gardner to the stage.
It's hard to follow Lance. And thank you for inviting me to speak here today. How many people actually went to the Seattle Hotel Association event a few months ago? You know here? Okay, in that case, I'll ignore my next joke. Two parts to my comments today. First on the bat is to look at the Dean Runyon study, the economic impact of tourism, specifically to this area. And I say that because it looks at the direct impacts. Lance mentioned the overall economic impact, which includes direct, indirect, and induced impacts. So here we're looking just very simply at the direct numbers. Oops, sorry, wrong way. So what I find interesting about this study, I'm going to go through it in the next 9 minutes, but I'm sure you can get a copy of it. Makes great bedtime reading. Well, if you're an economist, it does. The area specifically, as you know, South Sound, very specific to the market. But more importantly, let's look at this, spending. I mean, you clearly know what happened. Business spending's up over 41%. Where it was in 2019. Extraordinary number. Tax revenues up by 33%. 34% were local, I think 32 were state. So the recovery is palpable post-COVID. And I think that is something that is going to continue as we progress through time. Not just because of the World Cup, that whole football thing, but I expect to see this being an area people are going to come to more frequently than many have expected. When you look at spending, obviously accommodation is by far the biggest component of it. But dining exceeded 2019 by almost 20%, transportation 38%. That's high mainly because when was the last time you filled up with gas? It's hardly the cheapest thing in the world these days. But we talk about these increases and the recovery that we're seeing from the period through COVID. I'd love to actually have been here at the airport to try a bowling ball down the concourse and see what happened. I wonder whether you would hit somebody or not. So we've seen significant growth in that respect. But with that growth comes spending. With spending comes what? It comes employment. And employment is massive. Now, it hasn't yet reached the pre-pandemic peak, which I believe is a bit more than 5,100 jobs. But the support is still significant. Now, it could be higher, it should be higher, but for those of you that might be involved in recruiting for your own companies, good luck. We have a lot of people just declining, staying out of the workforce, or they're demanding far higher salaries, and specifically in the leisure and hospitality industries. Those are the ones that laid off first, trying to hire back for no additional salaries, ideally, and that is not working. Now, I think that's going to be a struggle we see going forward. But is that going to change? I think possibly, but if you think about it, in food preparation, for example, in August of 2022, again, the numbers we're looking at are for that year, there were, 6,800 job postings in that month, in this area, in King County, in that industry. Yet there were only 360 people defined as being unemployed that were part of that industry segment. So big shortfall here. In King County, right now we have a shortage of 443 hotel, motel, and resort desk clerks. That's a need. I'm sure all of you, again, in that part of that segment of the marketplace, are still seeing the same issues there as well. Earnings. I touched on this a few minutes ago. Tax receipts generated just purely by travel spending up to almost shy of $120 million, 33.1% increase year on year. As we started going back up in 2021, that again is a remarkable increase. Now we can talk about inflation. I won't go down that road, but it is still continuing to increase. The impact of the airport, these are two slides actually stolen from the port. It's always interesting to see. But again, it really kind of backs up to what Lance was saying. I'm sure by his forecast can be absolutely accurate. I travel a lot giving speeches and getting through the airport, getting to it. It's a lot different. I happened to be flying actually the day the mask mandate went away. I fly Alaska, and the captain came over the tannoy and said, okay, well, FAA said you don't have to wear masks. People were ripping them off like they just got out of a 12-hour heart surgery. I'm looking at them like, no, I don't want to see your face, go away. But the recovery is really quite extraordinary. So although still off by 11%, recovery palpable. Now, we saw a significant number, actually, in terms of travellers. Now, this is deplane passengers coming here, I think, again, shy from where we were the year before the pandemic started, but not by much. And I think they think about an international bit more of a drop there. And I think, as Lance mentioned, once China reopens, that is likely to change as well. So all in all, recovery, sure. Improvement, absolutely. In some segments, back to where we were pre-pandemic. Others, a little bit of a shortfall still. But do I expect that to grow until we see this year, indeed, certainly next year, be higher than those pre-pandemic levels? I'd be astounded if that is not the case. Additionally, if you think about people here who are coming in, landing here, but then not leaving. Well, you can see where COVID kicked in. You're still a little bit shy, but not by very much. And when we think about overnight visitor volumes, really quite successful, quite remarkable in terms of that growth, and a significant growth over where you were before the pandemic started. Beyond that, I think we talk about the classic things. We talk about those of you in the hotel industry. There's very specific areas we look at. Occupancy, naturally, is the most important thing. These numbers obviously come from STR. And what they show is quite remarkable, not just an improvement here, but look at where you are compared to either Seattle CBD or the East Side, specifically in Bellevue. You're not only higher in respect of occupancy than those two other very, very significant markets, but the other ones that are out there, in occupancy, the Kent-Renton market, 63.7, so you're certainly beating them. Everett, North Seattle, 68.7, U District, 65.5. So in all these aspects, when in terms of a recovery of occupancy, this is also year to date, by the way, through July. The airport market, the South Sound market, is performing remarkably adequately. Doing well compared to its entire peer group. ADRs, average daily rates, again, same thing applies here. Now, Seattle was up by 9% year to date. The East Side 6.5%. I think Kent was about 7%. North King County was at 5.1%, and the U District about 6.6%. So we are seeing that. Now, relatively speaking, it certainly is more affordable down here than the Bellevue or the East Side markets, or indeed downtown Seattle. But that rate of growth, the 12.5%, higher than any of the other sub-markets within our region. Are you pushing rate again? Absolutely you are. And it clearly is working, given the fact, normally there's a balance, right, between occupancy and rate. But you're pushing rate, but you're also seeing significant occupancy as well. All things appear to me, as an economist, to be working rather well. RevPAR, revenue per available room, it's also doing pretty well. Now, obviously, I mentioned it here on the Seattle. I mean, it was up, certainly, across the board here. Kent was down, Everett up by 4.5%, and U District about 4%. So if we look at RevPAR, you are still, even though you're starting to have to push those costs, not just the fact you can, but because of your increased costs. And what I mentioned earlier on about the ability to get people to come back and work for you again, you've got to pay them more. I remember I was giving a speech in downtown Seattle for the Puget Sound Business Journal about a year ago, and I mentioned that there's a possibility we could actually have a recession. Well, I was applauded. What is wrong with this picture? I've got business owners across the region applauding me because I'm saying we're going to have a recession. Whereas their view was, right now, they're trying to get employees to come back to their offices, back to their workplaces. And the employees are saying, no, you can't make me. You try that, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go down the street. Well, if we do start seeing that slow down, which I think is less likely now, unfortunately, shoe moves onto other foot, and then all of a sudden, you can start really controlling the narrative, bringing people back. So my brief thoughts, at least on this part, are how do we stand? How does the South Sound stand relative to its competitors? Remarkably well. Are we seeing more people coming through the airport? Absolutely. And that, again, is going to, without a doubt, continue as we go forward. So I'm an economist. I'm used to saying bad things. I'm trying to find the worst of everything. It's very hard to find, at least given the data that I was asked to look at. So, again, the report you'll find, if you ask for it later on, it is interesting in my respect, but the second part of this presentation is the more interesting one, at least in my respect. So I'd like to start by inviting our three panel members up. First off, that would be Ben Brockman, Managing Director, Airport Affairs for Alaska Airlines. I will be talking to him later about upgrading my 75K status. So, Ben. Secondly, everyone knows Mark Everton, CEO Explore Seattle Southside. And last but not least, Nick Liotti, Director of Tourism Development for the Port of Seattle. Please offer them a warm welcome. So time being of the essence, we'll get straight to it. We'll start with Nick, the other end. In addition to the airport, the port owns cruise terminals. How are cruises positively impacting the region? And if you can get it to work, it's good. Yes, it is. There you go.
There it is. I wasn't actually listening to you when you were actually asking that question because I was focused on my microphone. But luckily, I wrote that question, so I already know where things stand. Obviously, a little bit about me. I just moved up to Seattle last year. Started at the port as director of tourism there last year, and this event last year was one of the very first things I did when I came. So it's nice to come full circle and be on the stage this time. So things must be pointing in the right direction. But also, I'm learning about the cruise industry as well. This is, I came from California where I wasn't focused on cruise, and I've been really impressed with the industry itself and how resilient it was. Following the pandemic. I know there was a time when people weren't sure cruise would still be a thing or even recover, but it was one of the very first markets to come back. Our numbers, obviously 2020, not great numbers, 2021, not great numbers, but last year, 2022, actually it was the biggest cruise year ever. I'm looking at Kathy. Yeah, thank you for nodding on that. And this year will be even bigger than that. Cruise brings over 700,000 visitors to Seattle each year. And our focus as our tourism department is, how do we get those folks to spend more time in Seattle and Washington State? So we do a lot of what we call cruise and stay marketing. And that's a huge focus for our department, both domestically and internationally. We do find, those international visitors who stay longer, spend more. That's a huge focus for us because of the fact that they have so much more vacation time. They can come take that week-long cruise to Alaska and still have 2 weeks left of their vacation time to visit all the destinations throughout Washington. Whereas the domestic passengers, which are also great, they can kind of fit that week-long cruise into their 1 week off, right? They're going to come up here, stay a night, possibly in Southside, probably, and then do the cruise and head on home, which is also great. So that's, that impact from cruises. I actually have some stats somewhere in my pocket, but I'm not even going to dig those out. I think we went over a lot of those stats before. It's a huge impact for this region, and we are working continuously to add those room nights and have increase that visitor spending throughout the area.
Thank you. On to you, Mark. Talk about airport passenger traffic. Last numbers, my numbers, doing remarkably well. How can you give me a bit more granularity as to the impact on the hotel segment?
Well, thank you, Matthew. So hotels in the region would be primarily in the Sea-Tac, Tukwila, Des Moines area, we're seeing almost 7,000 hotel rooms a day, which is close to about 10, almost 11,000 actual people staying in our hotels. So as you saw from the chart that Matthew had done, we're not quite back up to 2019 occupancy levels. But we are definitely getting very close to that. With the inclusion of getting some international travel and also a little bit more of the pre and post cruise travel, I think that will help our hotels a great deal. One of the challenges that they're facing today is the length of stay. And a lot of our guests currently are doing a 1 day length of stay. And some of the bigger properties with airline crews, I think they tell me they're averaging 1.1 or 1.2. So the key is to get the international traveler who's gonna come, as Nick mentioned, will come and spend 4 or 5 days in this area and use this as a base to go and explore all of the Pacific Northwest. So that's really the key. That's the piece we're missing, is to get those international travelers back in, and also to be able to extend our cruise guests for pre and post stays.
Benjamin, status upgrade. Sorry. Travel's recovering, as we've talked about. All of us have mentioned, and that creates constraints. Yes, I do use the arrivals, by the way, when I'm leaving. How is Alaska investing in technology and infrastructure to support your growth as an airline?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I will echo a lot of what Lance said with the constraints that we have in Seattle. This is the first time in my career that I think every major airport that we serve is undergoing major construction, maybe with the exception of Anchorage. And in some cases like Seattle, it's 2 or 3 or 4 projects at any given time. So first of all, if you are flying us, I hope you have a great experience, but I do apologize. Think about the future. It will be better. I think when I was here last year, I had just rejoined the company. Similar to Nick, although he has a much better picture than I do. I'll have to work on that for next year. We were kind of getting ready to launch the lobby project. I think that's probably the biggest single thing right now. Seattle sits on about 2,600 acres. You compare that to Dallas, which is 36,000, or DFW, which is, DFW is 36,000. Denver is like 17,000. We're in a much more constrained space. So the only way that we have to build, and Lance touched on it, is to ingest new technology into the lobby process. And that's what we're doing really through this project. It's gonna look great, it's gonna be really nice, but we need to get the people through the ticket experience, check the bags, through security as fast as possible. It's a better experience for them. And frankly, it's good for the airport, it's good for us, because they go to concessions, they spend money, they go to our lounges, and that's exactly what we want. And we are seeing really good progress with just some of the investments that we've made. In the short term, we've halved the time that it takes someone to actually get their bag checked on the self-bag drop stations. Again, in Seattle particularly, the lounges have just exploded in demand. We've all seen the constraints, so we've expanded C, we've invested $5 million in the D lounge, and I'm very happy to report that we've actually will be, I think this is public. Hopefully I won't get in trouble. The new C building, which Lance talked about, which is going to make an amazing customer experience. We've actually signed an MOU for a new 20,000 square foot lounge. It's about double the size of the N lounge that we have today. It's going to be a really, really great experience. So when that comes online, that'll be the flagship, because we know during the pandemic, people just got really used to it, and we need to invest in that. So we're doing that across the entire system.
You heard it here first. Moving back to Nick again. I've heard it a couple of times that what's missing the component likely is international tourism. So I'd ask you, Nick, what's the port, or how is it involved? What's it doing to try bringing back some of those international passengers that we've lost or have not returned post-pandemic?
Right, and I was happy to see the stats that Lance shared, that international is above 2019 levels. Before I move on, I should probably mention that this photo of me up here might suggest that I'm a better banjo player than I actually am. When I chose it, I didn't think that through. I'm very much beginner level, so don't let that impact your view of me. So international visitors, that's the key component. They, again, as we've all said, stay longer, spend more. And in the port and our department, the tourism department there, we work really closely with State of Washington Tourism and Visit Seattle. And those are organizations which have a global reach. And my mission there is to represent destinations throughout Washington State, including Southside, including Yakima, Walla Walla, Spokane. I take that responsibility on our department because we have that global reach that maybe some of the other destination marketing organizations do not. So we're able to bring that message to the entire world. And the port's been involved in international tourism for a long time. But over the past year, since I came on board, we've really focused on our partnership with the state and with Visit Seattle. And we actually have in-market agencies that are under contract now in partnership with the state and Visit Seattle in Australia, the UK, Germany. We're looking at getting back into the Asian markets like Japan and South Korea before the end of this year. So international is a huge focus for us and a big part of what we do every year.
Thank you. Mark, think about other markets, specifically San Francisco. You're very familiar with the Bay Area. They certainly haven't seen that recovery that we've seen here and are likely not to for, some are saying, 5 to 7 years from now. Why is Seattle doing so much better than the Bay Area?
And before I answer that, Matthew, I just want to mention that we do have a headshot photographer out. So, and as we know, nothing speaks cool professionalism like a banjo, and we didn't bring the banjo, but you can get a headshot sans banjo out there after.
I appreciate that.
San Francisco's got a challenge, and it's unfortunately in the news quite often now for a lot of the more negative aspects of it. But the big challenge that it's facing is it's concentrated so much of its workforce on the tech side. And as we all are very well aware, a lot of the tech doesn't need to be back into the offices. And so Salesforce, that built an enormous tower, has said that they think that they will never have more than half of their tower occupied, simply because of the fact that people are not migrating back to work as they once were. And as we know here in Seattle, Amazon and some of the other employers are pushing 2 and 3 days back in the office. That's not going over well in San Francisco. And so the challenge that the hoteliers have, and one of the larger hotel owners in San Francisco has recently handed back the keys of 2 of the largest properties in San Francisco. And they're the ones that said, we're seeing an extended return of the traveler, of both the domestic and of the international traveler. So I believe SFO, the airport, is doing well. They're just not getting that travel into the downtown area, which we are here, as you could see from Matthew's slides. Travel into the airport is up, and the travel from the airport into our region is definitely up. So we're in a much better position than San Francisco is, unfortunately.
Initially, funny mention about Amazon and return to work. There's a leaked memo came out last week that they're now demanding people go back to the office 5 days a week, full-time back. So we'll see if that happens or not. Time will tell. Moving on, Benjamin, without giving things away, as you might just have done, and with the belief that growth, the recovery is still there and is likely to continue, where do you see Alaska's growth over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll try not to give anything else away. I don't see my corporate communications team here, so I'm not going to get in trouble.
I got my share buyer open right now.
Thank God. So no, actually, and Mark, your point was actually really entirely good for what I was going to answer this, because the recovery for us, if you look at the macro sense, yes, we're fully recovered. Passenger levels are back to normal, revenues are back up, profitability has returned. But the reality is it's actually incredibly uneven, right? Like the leisure travel coming out in 2022 boomed with revenge travel, and that just hasn't stopped. Business travel has come back, but it's still hovering around 80%. So while we are getting to where we need to be, back fully, it's much more leisure focused. And I think some of the things that I've actually answered questions on is why, with Seattle traffic roughly at the same in 2019, do we see lines that are so much more? And I think one of the reasons is, quite frankly, the passengers are checking more bags. They're more leisure oriented. They're less used to going through the airport experience. We have a lot of new employees. So there's a lot of reasons for it. I'm not making excuses, but that just is something to think about. As far as the next 35 years, we've done a lot of good things, getting our labor in order and giving them the raises and, frankly, training that they need. It's adding a lot of cost. And so if we're going to continue to offer the low fares and that we need to in order to retain the loyalty in Seattle, especially, which is a super competitive market, I won't name the other airline or airlines. But the reality is we need to be able to continue to offer low fares. And how we're going to do that is through efficiency. It's transitioning through single fleet types. It's increasing the average size of the aircraft, not the density. We're not going to be packing more seats than what we have, but just as Boeing certifies the MAX 10, that's going to be the new backbone of the fleet. It's going to add 30 or 40 more seats on versus what our average fleet counts are today. So we just need to really drive that type of efficiency. And while it's good because it allows us to continue to invest in our people and offer low fares to our customers, again, it pressurizes Seattle infrastructure. And so while all of these things are happening, it's important that we're investing at the same time. So as far as, we work really, really closely with Lance's team to help recruit new international service. He's got a fantastic air service development team led by Rick Duncan and Causeway. And, if you take Alaska and One World Carriers, we're actually the largest international family of airlines in Seattle. And so we want to make sure that where feasible, we're supporting the airport in their recruitment and growth for new international airlines and making sure that the service that exists today continues to be successful. So you've seen us launch new routes like Nassau from here, which is in November, in the Bahamas, and then Guatemala City and Belize last year. And so those have really, really worked well for us. So we want to continue kind of doubling down on that. Again, international leisure or visiting friends and relatives are kind of the primary growth engines for new markets. So if you look at a map and see what we're not doing today and want to kind of extrapolate, that might be what it's going to look like.
Thank you. Nick, there's been a lot of talk about responsible tourism, destination stewardship. How's the port helping to foster those concepts?
Right, yeah, especially coming out of the pandemic, potential travelers, when they're booking their trips, they're being much more focused on sustainability and environmental issues. So it's been an industry-wide, an urgent industry-wide mission to find ways to make the tourism industry work better for everyone. So that means finding ways to not just support the communities economically, but also socially and environmentally. How can tourism have positive impacts in those realms as well? Last year the port was the major sponsor of the Responsible Outdoor Travel Summit. We worked on that with State of Washington Tourism, and there were some great conversations that were had at that conference. So we look to take the next step and take action on those conversations over this past year. We've actually, in development right now with an organization called the Travel Foundation that we've contracted with, we are producing a responsible tourism handbook that will act as a blueprint or foundational piece for tourism businesses and destination marketers across the state. There's a lot of folks in smaller destinations that we find they don't know the questions, let alone knowing the answers, right, to all these issues that are now facing destinations. So this handbook will look to point people in the right direction, give them examples of what other destinations have done around the world, and help us create a better tourism economy that, again, works for all Washingtonians and is an inclusive industry.
Thank you. Mark, we know that the hotel sector is doing well. How's the retail market performing locally? Has it recovered, and what's your expectations, again, for the next couple of years?
Well, thank you, Matthew. One of our new board members to the Explore Seattle Southside board is the general manager of the Westfield Mall over in Tukwila in South Center. And speaking with him, I was absolutely blown away. And I'm gonna throw out a trivia number that I think will surprise many of you. Pike Place Market draws 10 million people a year to the market. The Westfield Mall draws 15 million people a year to that mall. And there are virtually no vacancies currently in it. And as you drive through the Tukwila area, you find that most of the retail is booming. I find when I run over to go grab a sandwich, I find often I can't find parking in a lot of the parking lots of the smaller shopping areas, the smaller malls. So I think retail is doing extremely well. We work and collaborate with the city of Sea-Tac to operate a shuttle. And the shuttle runs from any one of the Sea-Tac hotels over the hill and drops people off and picks them up at the Westfield Mall. And we're currently moving about 25,000 people a year from our Sea-Tac hotels to our shopping and dining district over in Tukwila. So pretty phenomenal that there's the demand for that. So it's a nice amenity, and I think retail, and you're the economist, is retail back? Are we booming?
We're still spending money. Not quite like the drunk sailors on shore leave that we did through the pandemic. But yeah, certainly it is. And so I think that is something we can. We're a nation of consumers. And so is that continuing? Yes. But it's certainly coming back to a more moderated pace. Finally, Ben, we mentioned about recruiting, staff retention, big issues there. What's Alaska doing in order to foster, not only keep the amazing employees you have. Yes, I'm groveling, but also how are you going to recruit more?
I mean, you're working your way up to 100K.
I'm working it hard, dude. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. It's something I'm super passionate about. You know, most of our leadership on the operations side actually started either in the ramp or behind the counter at the airport. And so it's something that we know that we have needed to invest in. We have this amazing program at the company called DEL, Developing Emerging Leaders, started in 2010. And it's open to, it was originally open just to frontline entry-level employees. It's now open to corporate entry-level employees as well. But it allowed them to, it's an intense course. I've got somebody on my organization going through it right now. To go from that step to a supervisory or manager level position. But I think what we realized in the last year was that we just we don't have the entire pipeline of talent built. So we've gone through and invested a ton. I mean, not just, level 1 to level 2, but we're talking about bringing people up all the way through the officer level of our company. And there's a very deliberate process at each stage for those that want it and those that qualify to be able to get specific training and work their way up through the company. So they know that they can have a long-term good career with Alaska Airlines. We're investing a ton of money into it. We're rolling it out. We're getting a lot of good interest. It was previously very ad hoc. We're a company of people typically spend 30 or 40 years. I left briefly, realized the grass wasn't greener and came back, so I can testify to that. But the reality is, we find good people and then we just promote them. But that actually is not, we're in such a war for talent, and we are going to continue to be, despite business owners cheering recessions, which is insane.
Yeah.
That's just the thing that we have to do. Thank you. 1 minute. That's the pilot issue as well is something that I think we're all aware of. There's still a lot of airplanes on the ground right now that just aren't capable of flying because we don't have crews. The airplanes are in good shape, but the regionals are still backlogged. The issue right now is not, a year ago it was just pilots, right? We didn't have enough pilot hours in the pipeline to be able to operate. We've solved that issue as an industry. What we're short of right now is captains. There's just not, you have to have more time to be a captain, and there's just not enough of them. So it'll take another year and a half or so for the industry to truly work their way through this and have all the airplanes flying again. But the good news is there's been a good progress. It's like turning a cruise ship.
That's the answer for Matthew for his upgrades. If he would just get to the captain level, then he'd get all kinds of travel perks.
Not for lack of trying.
Go for it.
I show you. I found these questions, answers fascinating. So please join me in thanking Nick, Mark, and Ben for their time.
And thank you very much, Matthew. It's always a pleasure to spend an afternoon with you and to get educated. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
The last part of the program is upon us. And last year for this event, we created a program, we being Explore Seattle Southside, really the team of Explore Seattle Southside, felt that there was an important opportunity for us to recognize those people that really make the hospitality industry work in our region. And last year we really focused on the heart of the house, those people that are really the unsung heroes that you don't always see in the front of the businesses, the restaurants and the retail and in the hotels. And very often you don't see them at events like this. So this year we've launched the second year of Hospitality Heroes, and we have a much broader group of people that we're going to recognize. So we've got 12 people that we're going to recognize today, and I'm going to turn it over to John McFarland. John is the general manager of the Hilton and the Doubletree here in Sea-Tac. And what's amazing is John manages about 1,250 rooms and close to 80,000 square feet of meeting space, and literally hundreds and hundreds of employees and team members. And if I could share one thing, John, we quite often will grab a cup of coffee and stand in the lobby, and every time we do that, you must greet 20 or 30 of your team members, and you do it by name. And you invariably tell me a little adage or a story about she's got a new grandchild, or they just came back from Belize, or their kid just graduated from an Ivy League school. So it's phenomenal. I'm in awe of as much as you have, that you know the value of your team. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
I just lost 4 minutes. There you go. I kind of wanted to stand out there, but I will stand here. Thanks, Mark. I just now went off script. That was on my script. The rest here are some notes I've taken while I was listening. Lance, amazing stats. I come to this and learn, and I appreciate the time and effort you've taken into that. I do have a couple comments. Several times a bowling ball was mentioned, twice. During the height of the pandemic, I was still commuting. It was me and the bowling ball. And I remember that, seeing it roll by. I'm helping your times. I can go from the Doubletree Seattle Airport in 8 minutes to this entrance. In 8 more minutes, I can get to my gate. Let's call it D9, but that would be American, I think. Let's call it D4. In 16 minutes. So I'm going to improve your times. That's a plug for Doubletree Seattle Airport parking, Park and Fly, and for Clear. And I'm great to see that they're a sponsor, but let's not promote much more. We got just enough people going by there, and I appreciate it being just me and feeling special. So it's good stuff. But Lance, after watching that baggage thing, I'm carrying on. That freaked me out. That freaked me out. Mark, you know, best place to work, best guy to work for. We're going to share a little love here. I didn't vote, but I would have voted for this guy, right? That's congratulations. I also hear there's a prize coming. I did vote on that. I suggested the Christmas Story leg lamp. I'm not sure if they're running with that idea or not. And then while I was coming up on stage, I overheard Ben and Nick talking, and at the Alaska Lounge, there's going to be a happy hour with a little banjo going on later today. So, last, Matthew, I'm living your stats, man. I'm living those stats for sure. And we have been quite successful because of this airport, and is why we're here. So, okay, back to what's really cool. I got the best job here, man. I get to talk about people serving others. And there is no greater thing humans can do is serve one another. So today, I get to talk about the best of the best, 12 people that have made this list of who are serving our community. Explore Seattle Southside's Hospitality Heroes highlights how hardworking service experts may make a huge difference in our community. Not all heroes wear capes, some wear aprons, others polo shirts, some have chef's hats. Hospitality heroes across a variety of roles in the hospitality industry are celebrated for their hard work, selflessness, and contributions to their team. The last several years have been extremely difficult for our industry and for the people that work in it. The pandemic shut down hotels. The Doubletree was closed for a year. Our team had to sit on the sidelines for a little while. As soon as people got back to traveling, it was a new customer. It wasn't international, it wasn't business people. It was people like you and I that just wanted to get out of their house. Right? So this huge boom in travel came while many of us weren't quite prepared for it. We were a bit undermanned, and we also, there was this thing called supply chain challenges. I think we're out of that. But I remember our chef going to the Safeway to decide what we were going to put on the menu for dinner tonight. That's how bad it got. But they persevered. Long hours, lack of supplies, and demands from our guests unlike anything we'd ever experienced before. And with that, we're going to celebrate some folks. I'm on track to, okay. First person is Andrea Doris. And I didn't see Andrea here today. She works for me. Andrea. When I say your name, stand up so we can celebrate you, okay? Andrea joined the Doubletree Hotel just last year and quickly adapted to her new role where she displays inherent hospitality. Andrea's been instrumental in building back the Seaport's lounge team and helping deliver great service. Andrea continues to show her commitment and dedication to Hilton hospitality and even completed 2 Hilton internal courses to continue developing her leadership skills and provide unique and memorable guest experiences. Okay, Jessica Martinez here.
She is.
Yeah? Where? As housekeeping lead, Jessica is an outstanding performer at the Museum of Flight. She's an extremely hard worker with an infectious can-do attitude. Jessica not only does a great job keeping the facility clean and safe, but she's also very observant and points out situations that could potentially be hazardous or a concern down the road. The Museum of Flight is fortunate to have Jessica to help provide a clean, safe space for our community to learn and enjoy the history of aviation. Her hardest job is the propellers, dusting those off. I don't know how that's done. That's a big place. Congratulations. Good job. Joyce Hicks here. Joyce Hicks from the Marriott Seattle Airport. Let's talk about her anyway. Throughout her tenure as Director of Housekeeping, Joyce has demonstrated exceptional leadership skills and a deep understanding of the hospitality industry. She successfully manages a diverse team of housekeeping staff, leading by example and fostering a culture of teamwork and excellence. Her clear communication, approachability, and willingness to listen has created a positive work environment. Under Joyce's leadership, the hotel has achieved remarkable financial success due to her effective housekeeping budget management, resulting in cost savings without compromising the guest experience. Music to a general manager's ears. Congratulate Joyce. Only a GM would talk about the numbers, right? So, okay, next up, Eric Payne from Sound Transit. Most Sea-Tac light rail station visitors are greeted by a smiling face of an amazing hospitality ambassador wearing a yellow windbreaker, we'll say red today, with station agent printed on the back. Eric has been a Sea-Tac light rail station agent for 3 years and was a station agent on the Sounder line for nearly a decade. He provides exemplary customer service to transit riders. Eric says visitors from Poland that have navigated time zones, airports, immigration, and customs are really not expecting the need for an Orca card when they get to the light rail station. Eric greets them with a smile and offers assistance. He is also an accomplished musician, playing trumpet regularly with several bands. Eric is easy to spot at the light rail station. He's one smiling at you. Congratulations. Eric, did you bring your trumpet? Because we got a banjo going later.
Well, my band is playing at the Seattle, Washington State Fair tonight. So
Okay. That's worth the plug right there. Celia Ortiz, Museum of Flight. Celia. Excellent. Celia applies an attitude of no job is ever too difficult in her role as a housekeeping lead at the Museum of Flight. The MOF, I had to read that twice. The MOF, as we all know it, is a massive indoor space with hundreds of displays and thousands of visitors every day. To keep the museum sparkling, Celia is one of the most reliable people at the museum. She often works well over 8 hours in a single day and sets an example for others, including guests and museum staff. Aside from Celia's exemplary performance while working, she also has an infectious laugh, is always sharing funny stories about her family, and constantly extends an invitation to others to share a good cup of coffee or meal. Right. I think my humor is failing because I have not heard Celia laughing yet. So that's better. Okay. Wendy Johansson from the Hilton Seattle Airport. I know she's not here. She works for us. She's out there helping guests right now. Wendy's a true example of displaying a calm within the storm attitude throughout her 18 years at the Hilton Seattle Airport. Wendy's positive attitude has helped her move up over the years. Wendy displays dedication to her own growth and commitment to Hilton values to help drive service experiences. Wendy was most recently promoted to a food and beverage manager due to her work ethic and service orientation. So let's congratulate Wendy. Sharon Weir from Seattle Chocolate. There you are. Okay. If you're walking through the airport, you've probably seen Sharon at least Seattle Chocolate Shop. I often stop by Seattle Chocolate, take with me when I travel. The amazing little store was opened by Sharon when she set the tone and a very high bar, no pun intended, for the company 8 years ago. Thanks, Mark. Sharon's Seattle Chocolate retail space at the airport has increased sales nearly every year while building an amazing, service-oriented, high-performing team. She collaborates with other retailers in the area and has developed a great relationship with the Port of Seattle, turning the little 10 by 20 foot space into the company's most profitable piece of business. Congratulations, that's cool. Sophia Salinas. Embassy Suites by Hilton Seattle Tacoma Airport. Sophia has often referred to as the queen of the night audit. Nice to have you up. A reputation that Sophia has molded over the 23 years at the Embassy Suites. Sophia can be relied on to work very efficiently without any kind of supervision and is a great partner for all our departments. She volunteers to take additional shifts and and always rises to any occasion. Has a beautiful smile and warmth about her that is magnetic for everyone who meets her, not to mention a fun personality and wicked sense of humor. Congrats. All right, the Hilton family of brands are on fire here. How about Robert Gonzalez? Robert Gonzalez, right there. Robert works alongside of Sophia in the Embassy Suites. Robert is truly a man of many titles and talents because he can do any position within the F&B department, often switching hats mid-shift to jump in and help where needed. As banquet captain, he's always available when needed, filling in during times of staffing shortages and training all new team members. Robert is incredibly smart, is always doing his job with efficiency and the highest level of productivity. He is incredible hospitality hero to our guests. I missed one, didn't I? Carl, we'll come back. Okay. Now do we have Ni Nguyen here? There you are. Did I get it pretty close? Excellent, thank you. Ni joined the DoubleTree Suite Seattle Airport South Center in 1990. That's right, 33 years ago. Ni began her career as room attendant and worked diligently, displaying a strong work ethic, and was promoted to housekeeping supervisor. During the pandemic, housekeeping supervisors took on new duties and functions. This took courage, and Ni did not shy away from this challenge. She had to make important decisions, handle guest requests, and work closely with other departments to resolve issues. In addition to her normal duties, Ni is an inspiration to her team at the hotel, her family, and hopefully all of us as hospitality heroes. And I did notice that I kind of went out of order and missed somebody, or maybe I was just saving him for last. Carl Carpenter, DoubleTree Seattle Airport. Since I saved you for last, I'll go off script. Carl's been with the hotel 23 years. I thought it was longer. Continues dedicated work to not only his home department and banquets, where he's a banquet captain and leads the show, but he also runs shuttle, and therefore was a great person to have some feedback about the arrival process. He creates memorable experiences for guests and is an employee who's consistently called out by guests for the positive hospitality he delivers each day. Carl displays teamwork recognized by guests and internally among the team. And when you say somebody wears two hats, he candidly goes and gets his hat on to go drive and then takes it off to go run a banquet. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Carl. There we go. David Goda, Hilton Seattle Airport. I didn't see him. I missed the whole page here. So David has come to work almost every day at the Hilton Seattle Airport for almost 20 years. David originally opened and even was sat the first guest at Spencer's Steaks and Chops. It's a great restaurant if you ever need a place to go eat. Yeah. David continues to be an example of bringing the warmth and light to all guests he encounters, living up to Conrad's vision for hospitality. David is consistently mentioned by guests in service reviews for the positive service he receives from him. All right. And how did I do that? I missed the whole page. All right, folks, thank you for allowing me to celebrate these hospitality heroes, and I'm going to turn it back over. Andy.
Thank you, John, and congratulations to this year's honorees. Well, I want to again thank Lance and the Port for hosting us today. Thank you to Matthew, Ben, Nick, and Mark for a great conversation. And again, congratulations to our hospitality heroes. I do want to highlight for you all that our next chamber event will be our public officials and candidates night. That's September 27th, and we hope you can join us for that great event. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been great to spend the afternoon with you. For those of you going on the tour, enjoy it. And for those of you who are heading out, please stay around and connect with others. We've got the room for a little while. So thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.